Okay, just notes on this one today. It's ones you already know how to do. Now, that brings to our point yesterday, and I'm in the copy room now. Sorry you hear the copy machine. I have to watch over it while I run my copies so it doesn't misfeed or do anything like that. So we have to solve these equations, and we're going to relate this to real life coming up tomorrow. So here's what you're doing. You have two answers because you have x to the second, but you also got x to the first too. So I've got x second and x to the first. So whenever I have that, I make a GCF box, but before I make that, I have to make sure that I have 0 on one side of the equation, which I do. If I have 0, I just go make my box right away. Okay, hopefully make a better box than I just did. So space parentheses, and now we're ready to calculate my GCF. Now the 9 in the front is positive, so my GCF's automatically positive. And I have x second and x to the 1, so x to the 1 is a GCF. Okay, then I've got 9 and 18 that I want to enter in, so 9 comma 18. This is a little bit different. In here it won't pick, it's having a hard time picking up the other one. And the GCF up there is 9, so it's 9x to the first. So I reverse distribute 9x to the first. I'll put a parentheses around that, and then I underline each of these and then divide by 9x to the 1, 9x to the 1. So the x1 crosses out as we know by now. And then I divide 9 by 9. That's 1. It's not 0. And on x, we take 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, then I take positive 18 divided by positive 9. And I got 2. So I put the 2 down, and it was positive, so I put a plus operator. And we can get rid of these first powers here. And now I have an F1 and I have an F2. Okay, I gave you a little bit more space on these problems here. So F1 is 9x, set that equal to 0. This is why your 0 has to be there, okay? And the F2 is 1x plus 2. Okay, dot your x's, both of them, and circle them. And here all you do is divide both sides of the equation by 9. 0 divided by 9 is 0. And over here, before we divide, we got to do the opposite of plus 2, which is minus 2. So 1 dot x, and then 0 minus 2. When I add or subtract from 0, it's not 0, it's negative 2. And then I divide by 1, and negative 2 divided by 1 would keep that at negative 2. So 0 and negative 2 are the two answers. 0, negative 2. Okay, my next problem. There are two answers because we have x second, but we also got this other x here that's to the first. So I have x second, I have x to the 1. Now that means I need to make my GCF box, but we have a problem. To make the GCF box, you have to make the equation equal to 0. So what I need to do is minus 9. The 9's positive. So since it's positive, we do the subtraction property of equality. So minus 9x to the 1. Those can be crossed out. And then I can't do that with the x to the 2. I got to keep them separate. So I put minus 9x to the 1 up here. Okay, that says minus 9x to the 1. Okay, so now I block that part off and I rewrite the equation. I write negative 24x to the second minus 9x to the 1 equals 0. Now I can make my GCF box. So space parentheses equals 0. Then underneath GCF. Now this time the number in front is negative, so our GCF's automatically negative. And then I have x to the 2 and x to the 1, so x to the 1. And then I put 3 and 24 and 9, so 24 comma 9. Okay, calculate, and that gives me 3. Okay, so I put a 3 between the negative and the x to the 1. So negative 3x to the 1 gets factored out of here, and then I divide both of these by negative 3x to the 1. That's what I'm putting outside, so that's what I divide by. And the x1 cancels. Okay, so I divide negative 24 by negative 3, and that gives me 8. And then on the x, you take 2 minus 1, that's 1. And then on the second division, we take negative 9, because of the minus, divided by negative 3, and that's 3. So I put a 3 down, and I put plus. Now let's get rid of those 1s, okay? And then we want to wrap that up. And that's your F1, and that's your F2. It's like you're taking the problem and unwinding it. It's like taking a ball of yarn and unwinding it. So you have negative 3x, that can equal 0. And you have 8x plus 3, that could equal 0. So again, dot your x's, both of them. And here all I have to do is divide by negative 3. And x equals 0. And then here the opposite of plus 3 is to subtract 3. 0 subtract 3 takes the 0 to negative 3. And then we divide both sides by 8 and divide by 8. So x equals negative 3 divided by 8. So negative 0.375. Negative 0.375. Okay, that's kind of a weird looking answer, but it is a correct one. Okay, my next problem. Negative 42x to the second equals 14x. So there's two answers here. And again, we have the x to the second and we have x to the first. So we have two different powers of the x variable. So we want to make a box, but I can't do that until I see 0 in the equation. So that 14 there is positive, so I use the subtraction property of equality. So I'm minus 14x to the 1, cross it out. And then I do that, I can't do it with this, so I put it just kind of above the equals, minus 14x to the 1. So what do I have? I have negative 42x to the power of 2, and then subtract 14x to the power of 1, and the other side now has nothing there, so I finally have my 0. Okay, and now I can make my GCF box. So space parentheses equals 0. GCF, do it underneath, I should. Okay. Now the first number 42 is negative, so the GCF is automatically negative, and then x second and x1, I do x to the 1. Okay, and then 42 and 14, I GCF calculator that. So 42, comma 14, hit calculate, and I get 14 for my GCF. Okay, so negative 14x to the 1 is coming out, and then I divide both of these by negative 14x to the 1. Okay, because now I have it in a different form. These can be crossed out, but not the 14s, just the x's. Negative 42 divided by negative 14 is positive 3. Then on x, 2 minus 1 is 1. Then I take negative 14 divided by negative 14, and I get 1. And since it's positive, it's a plus. Okay, and we can cross out our first powers. We don't need those there. So wrap him up. That's F1, that's F2. Okay, so we set each one equal to 0. So negative 14x could equal 0, or 3x plus 1 could equal 0. So I dot the x's and circle them. So it's times, so I'm going to divide both these by negative 14. If you divide 0 by anything, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, the answer is 0. And over here, before I divide by 3, I need to take minus 1. 0 take away 1 is negative 1, so 3 dot x equals negative 1. And then I divide by 3. So x equals negative 1 divided by 3. That's negative 0.3 repeating, so just put negative 0.3 and just put a repeating sign over the 3. Okay, next problem. We got 30x to the power of 2 minus equals negative 15x. So there's two answers. and we have x to the power of 2, and we have x to the power of 1. So we need a GCF box, but problem is I need a 0 to be able to do that. So I see negative 15 is negative, so I do the addition property of equality, so plus 15x, and you can put that up above your equals. Okay, now block that off because we need to write the equation. So we have 30x to the power of 2 plus 15x to the power of 1 equals 0. And now we can make that box. So space parentheses equals 0. And underneath the GCF, my 30 at the beginning is positive, so the GCF's positive. Then I have x to the 2 and x to the 1, so x to the 1. And then we go 15, 30. So 15, comma 30. Hit calculate and you get 15. So 15. Okay, so 15x to the 1 comes out here, and then we go up and divide both of them by the 15x to the 1. Remember, x1 cancels, not the 15s though. You leave the 15 divided by 15. So 30 divided by 15 is 2. And then on x, 2 minus 1 is 1. And then I take positive 15 divided by positive 15. I got 1. And since it's positive 1, we put a plus. Okay. And then let's get rid of the first powers. We don't want those. And then I put a parentheses around the outside. And I have F1 and F2. Okay, so F1, 15x, that could equal 0. And then F2, 2x plus 1, that could equal 0. So I'm going to dot and circle both of these. So here I divide by 15. And 0 divided by 15 is 0. Doesn't matter what the bottom number is. If you have 0 on the top when you're dividing, it's going to be 0. So the opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. But this isn't division, that's subtraction. So if you have 0, you take away 1, you're at negative 1. Okay, then we divide by 2, divide by 2, and we take negative 1 divided by 2. It's negative 0.5. So those are your two answers for x, 0 and negative 0.5. Okay, next problem. We got two answers for the x variable. And the x variable is to the second, and then there's also an x to the 1. Now, we can make our box now because I see the 0. I don't need to rewrite the equation. Okay, the 0's right here. So I can go ahead and make my GCF because I see the 0, so I can set it equal to 0. So GCF, the 6 in front's positive, so the GCF's positive. Then we have x2 and x1, so x1. And then on the GCF calculator, we go 6 and pair that with 15 and see what they can both divide by, and that would be 3. Okay, so 3x to the 1 gets factored out. Okay, and then we're going to go divide by 3x to the 1. x1, that cancels. And then 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then 2 minus 1 is 1. Then we take negative 15 divided by 3. Negative 5. Okay, so I put 5, and due to the fact that I got a negative, I put minus. Okay, so let's get the 1's out of there. That's F1, and that's F2. Okay, so F1 is 3x, and F2 is 2x minus 5. So I dot those x's and circle them, both of them. So I'm going to divide by 3 here, and 0 divided by 3 is 0. And over here I'm going to plus 5, and 2.x equals 5. Then I divide by 2. Okay, then I divide 5 by 2, and I get 2.5. You can get a decimal in the end, that's fine. Okay, but you shouldn't see any decimals till you actually get here. Okay, next problem. X to the second power minus 10x equals 0. So there are two answers, because we have x to the second and we have x to the 1. We have both those, okay? So we have our 0 already, so I go ahead and make my box. I don't need to rewrite anything. Okay, GCF equals. Okay, we want to put a 1 in front if we don't have a number there, and that 1's positive. Sorry, I don't like doing it here. I like doing it here. The 1's positive, so this will be positive. Then we have x to the 2 and x to the 1. So x to the 1. And then 1 and 10, I think whenever 1 is one of the numbers, it's just going to be a GCF of 1, as you can see right there. So 1x to the 1 is what I reverse distribute. 1x to the 1. Okay? Then I go up and divide by 1x to the 1. x1 cancels. Okay, 1 divided by 1 is 1. Then on x we take 2 minus 1. That's 1. And then negative 10 divided by 1 is negative 10. So that's minus 10. Okay, get the 1's out of there. Okay, so F1, F2. Okay, so 1x could equal 0, or 1x take minus 10 could equal 0. Okay, so I dot my x circle, dot the x circle. We're just going to divide by 1 here. 0 divided by 1 is 0. And then here you got to add 10 to both sides. So 1 dot x equals 10 divided by 1. 10 divided by 1 then is 10. So 0 and 10. Okay, now I'm not done with the video. I got to feed some more stuff through the copy machine. Then I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about the wait. And this one here, you got two answers. And once again, we see the x to the second, and then we also got x to the 1. Okay, I can make my box right away because I see the 0. Okay, so GCF space parentheses equals 0, because you have to do that equal to 0. So GCF, on the first number is negative, so what's that mean? It means we have a negative GCF. And we have x2 and x1, so that's x1. Okay, then I go to my calculator and I want to hit 10, 25. Don't put a negative in, just put 10 and 25, and that's 5. Okay, so negative 5x to the 1. Bring that out, put it in parentheses, and then we just go up and divide by negative 5x to the 1. So those x to the firsts can be crossed out. Not these two. I didn't do a very good job. So I take negative 10 divided by negative 5, and that's 2. Then on x, 2 minus 1 is 1. Then I take positive 25 and divide that by negative 5, and I got a negative. So due to the fact I got a negative, we put minus. And we can cross those out. And this is F1. This is F2. Okay, so F1, negative 5x equals 0. Then F2, 2x minus 5 equals 0. So I dot the x circle, dot the x circle. Here I'm just dividing every time. And that's 0, so I get 0 for an answer. And here the opposite of minus 5 is plus 5. So 2 dot x equals 5. And then I divide by 2. That's a decimal. Who cares? 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. Okay, next problem. Got two answers here. And what do we have? We have x to the second. And we got x to the 1. Now, I need to circle 0. I don't see it. So I need to do the opposite of negative 30, which is plus 30, x to the 1. Then above the equals, plus 30, x to the 1. Okay, now I'll have 0. I write negative 12x to the 1, x to the second. And then plus, remember we use the adding up property of equality. And then we can write 0. And then I can circle 0, means I can make my box. So space parentheses. GCF, you do have a negative in front, so negative. x2, x1 would be x to the 1. Then we go 12 and 30 into that GCF calculator. Again, if you don't know your multiplication tables, that's no biggie, okay? 6. Because if you don't know them now, you're probably not. That's fine. And I don't mean that as an insult. So that's why I have this bad boy. So negative 6x to the 1. Divide these both by negative 6x to the 1. Okay, these cross out. Okay, negative 12 divided by negative 6 is 2. Okay, so I have 2, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. 2x to the 1. Okay, then I take positive 30 divided by negative 6. I got negative 5. So I got negative, so I put 5 with a minus. So, get rid of those 1s, okay? Good to have them there, but get rid of them. So that's F1, that's F2. So, negative 6x could equal 0, or 2 times x minus 5 could equal 0. Okay, so I see the x's, I see what both of them are multiplied by. And here I'm just going to divide by negative 6. 0 divided by negative 6 is 0. Here you got minus, so you're going to plus 5. So 2.x equals 5. And then divide by 2. Then I take 5 divided by 2, and that's 2.5. Man, I'm getting that answer a lot here. That's okay. 0 and 2.5. Okay, next problem. There's 2 answers for the x variable because we have x to the second and x to the 1. Okay, I have my 0 right away, so I can go ahead and make my box. GCF equals, the 18 in the front's positive, so gosh darn, I keep writing that here. I want to write it underneath. Okay, so the 18 in the front's positive, and x to the 1. And then 6 and 18. I think it's 6. Check to be sure, even if you think you know it, though. Okay, and the GCF is 6. Okay, so Mr. 6x to the 1 out of here. And then I divide these each by 6x to the 1. I know that looks confusing, but we can cross those out. And I will be dividing 18 by 6 to get 3. Then 2 minus 1 is 1. And then 6 divided by 6 is 1. Now it's positive, so it's plus. Okay, and then put a parentheses around that. Remember, this equals 0. That's why you get the 0. So, either 6x could equal 0, or 3x plus 1 could equal 0. So dot and circle, dot and circle. So we're going to divide by 6 here. So 0 divided by 6 is 0. And we're going to minus 1 from each side. Remember, that doesn't stay at 0. When you add or subtract a number from 0, it changes. It'd be negative 1. Okay, then divide by 3. So I take negative 1 divided by 3. I get negative 0.3 repeating. There we go. Okay, next problem. 3x to the second equals 6x. Okay, so there's 2 answers. And we have x second and x to the first. But 0, I don't see yet. So take the number over here. It's positive. So we do the subtraction property of equality. So minus 6x to the 1. Again, just put that kind of in no man's land above the equals, minus 6x to the 1. Okay, so now I write the equation. I got 3x to the second, subtraction, and then 6x to the 1 equals, now I can write 0. Okay, so 0, and now I can set up my GCF box. Okay, GCF. Okay, this is positive, so it'll be positive, and then x second and x1's x1. Okay, greatest common factor out of 3 and 6 is, I got 3. So 3x1's coming out. And then divide by 3x to the 1. x1 crosses out. 3 divided by itself is 1, and then x2 minus 1 is 1. Then I will be taking negative 6 and dividing it by 3. I got negative 2, so I got a 2 minus. Okay, get your first powers out of there. Put a parentheses, and this is F1, this is F2. Okay, so F1, 3x could equal 0, or F2, 1x subtract 2 could equal 0. So I dot the x's. So here I just divide by 3. 0 divided by any number is 0. This is not 0 though, because I got to add the 2 first. 0 add 2 does not keep it at 0. It takes it to 2. And divide by 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So 0 and 2 are the 2 answers. Okay, 2 more. Okay, there are 2 answers. And we have x to the second and x to the 1. Okay, so 0, where are you? I don't see it. So I take the number over here, got an 8. It's negative, so we do the adding property of equality with the x to the 1 as well. And I can't do that with x to the second, so I want to put that right here. So I have a new equation. Well, not a new equation, it's just written differently. 28x to the second, adding sign, and then 8x to the 1 equals 0. So now I got my 0. So now I GCF that. When I say GCF, that means the GCF box. I'm in a good position to find my greatest common factor. 28 is positive, so it's positive. We have x2 and x1, so x1. And we have 28 with 8. Okay, I got 4. Okay, so 4x to the 1. So I put 4x to the 1 here, parentheses around it. And I go up and divide by 4x to the 1. So these cross out. Okay, 28 divided by 4 is 7. And then on x, 2 minus 1 is 1. And then positive 8 divided by 4 is positive 2. So I said positive 2, so it'll be a plus. Okay, we'll get rid of these. Okay, so this is F1, this is F2. And you just, all you have to do at this point is set each F equal to 0. That's why you have to be able to circle the 0. So dot your X, circle, dot your X, circle. So here I just divide by 4. And 0 divided by 4 is 0. The opposite of plus 2 is minus 2. So 7 dot x, 0 take away 2 is negative 2. Then we divide by 7. Divide by 7. We're going to be taking negative 2 divided by 7. Just go on negative 0.28. Okay, if it never like ends like that, just put 2 digits after the decimal. That's good enough for me. Okay, number 4, there's 2 answers. X second, x to the 1. And 0, where are you at? Whenever you have extra different powers, you got your 0. There it is. And we make our GCF box at this point in time. Okay, GCF, first thing. First number's negative, so that makes our GCF negative. X2, X1, it'd be X1. 32 and 24. So I go 32, 24. And my GCF is 8. Okay, so negative 8x to the 1 goes out. And then divide both of these by the negative 8x to the 1. Okay, so negative 32 divided by negative 8. I got 4. Then x to the 1, you should be knowing that by now. And then I take negative 24 divided by negative 8, and that's 3. Now, given the fact that it's positive 3, it's a plus operator. So get those out of there. So that's F1. Negative 8x could equal 0, or 4x plus 3 could equal 0. Okay? So I dot my x, circle it, dot your x, circle it. So we divide here by negative 8. That gives me a 0. Now this won't be 0, I minus 3. When I add or subtract a 0, it doesn't stay at 0, okay? Because it's, remember, adding, subtracting is like a number line. You're going to move off the 0. So negative 3 divided by 4. And negative 3 divided by 4 is negative 0.75. Okay.